this is the Pat Lotz Group with another podcast, Beyond the Keys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, coming at you with a lot of great information to help you buy or sell your next house. As always, I am here with
Pat Lotz.
We are talking today about the steps to prepare your home for sale in this spring. And today is January 20th. So we might even be behind the eight ball on maybe this content, because I think that this content is very relevant as early as possible. And tip number one is start by planning early. When is that magic time that somebody that wants to sell their house in the spring, that they should be starting these things now?
Well, if they haven't been thinking about it for 6 months and doing preparation, I would say right after the holidays, because you're pulling things out, putting things away, and so your mindset should start January, so you're not pressured and stressed when it's time to list.
Yeah, and I just had somebody call recently, late December, talking about buying.
Yeah.
They're in a rental, actually two couples specifically. We're in rental opportunities. We've got 6 months of our lease. When should we start having these conversations? Now. This is a great time to be doing this now. Dot your I's, cross your T's, get pre-approved, see what's out there, and be ready for the spring market. Mm-hmm. We're going to get phone calls March 1st or April 1st, and they're going to say, hey, I need to buy in the next 30 days. Help me. You're probably behind the eight ball at that point in time.
Yeah.
And it's no different than selling your house.
Yeah.
If we get a phone call March 1st, April 1st to say, hey, I'm looking to sell here in the next 30 days or so, shoot, we probably should have had this conversation 4 months ago.
However, we've got incredible resources to help you. So that is the good thing. That is the good thing. And
start by planning early. Like, what does that look like for somebody? So December 15th rolls around, or like you said, even after holidays, January 5th, we want to list our house in the spring. What does that look like, I guess, from step 1, 2, and 3? What's step number 1 for those sellers?
Well, step number 1 would be you're inside. It's cold out in Michigan, so let's start on the inside. The first thing is I would start to declutter, and that means start putting away things you're going to move anyway. So get rid of the knicky-knacks, and less is more.
So step number 1, though, might be call an agent. January 5th.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Call an agent so that they can give you the step-by-step process of what you need to do.
And that aside, understanding maybe what projections look like of today's market, and then also maybe 3 months down the road market, to get a better understanding of price points. Because one, if you're not going to get the price that you want, are you going to sell your house? Probably not.
It depends on what your circumstances are.
So no different than buying and selling. You know, a step good interchangeable step number 1 and 2 is contact a real estate professional, contact a lender. Knowing what the having the end in mind. What's your end all goal? And Hamel Road's a great example of that. Is somebody's looking to sell and they need to buy, but keeping the end in mind is necessary. So we know exactly what we're doing through the sales side to be able to get her to where she wants to be. And we did exactly what we're going to be talking about, but her step number 1 was contact Pat Lotz.
Yeah.
To then create those expectations and foundation for what that's going to look like. And then that aside, then we go into start with the inside. Deep clean. Did you say deep clean?
Well, that was at the end. Declutter.
Yeah. And then we always say depersonalize, which
same kind of
doesn't
thing.
necessarily always need to happen, but deep clean, depersonalize, and declutter. And that's exactly what she did, or we helped her do.
Yep. We had a resource that went in there and helped her stage the home. She had great furniture. She had everything we needed. We just needed to set it up properly. And also she needed to sell some things / put some things in storage because it was just too much.
Yeah. Just to keep it as lean and mean as possible, as presentable as possible. And also too, keeping the end in mind. She's going to have to move these things regardless, or these sellers are going to have to move these things regardless. So getting a jump start on it is never a bad idea. And that's with families, that's with downsizers, that's with upsizers. It's only going to make your life that much easier, but then also it makes your house that much more presentable.
Yeah. Well, and the thing too is what we do, and I think is very important, is we do a pre-inspection. So getting that on the books and underway helps folks take care of some projects that might be necessary to get the house ready. I'm a firm believer you got to take care of repair and maintenance issues during that time.
And that's number 3, make a list of repairs. That's kind of simultaneously happening within our pre-inspection or post our pre-inspection. Make lists of repairs, obviously prioritize the things that should be addressed, and then maybe just disclosing the things that we haven't been able to address. Number 2, I think is very cool though, to get people a better perspective of what show ready is. So number 2 is, step number 1 is start planning early. Number 2 is visit open homes or open houses. I think it's a great idea to get our sellers to really see what picturesque is. We do a good job at having that within our photos and our 360 walkthroughs to say, this is what we're looking, this is 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And this is where we kind of need to be, or as close to this as possible. But getting those sellers into open houses to see, one, competition, understanding price points of why we might be here versus here, depending on where that competition is. Because again, that's, at the end of the day, that is what people are doing. They're comparing your home to everything else they're seeing, but then also getting them to the point where they understand what show ready is. And then number 3, make a list of repairs. And maybe let's get some examples of maybe through a pre-inspection, historically, what we're seeing for repairs, and then what we're prioritizing versus what we're deciding not to prioritize.
Well, repairs, I like visual work done. I mean, if we need to caulk around the counters, if we need to change a faucet, a light fixture, if we need to paint some trim, if we need to take down some, old wallpaper, paint the front door. I mean, those kind of things.
Helping with perceived market value, more of anything than it's, it's not going to be the reason your house doesn't sell. But if you're able to mitigate some of these issues, it could be the reason that your house is more desirable. It's perceived market value. And this is a good point. A lot of people think that they need to spend more money into their kitchen to get these things updated, new countertops, new bathrooms, so on and so forth. A lot of the value is going to come from the land, the location, the bones, the square footage, the time it was built, 1990 versus a 1950. Just because you spend $10,000 in upgrading a kitchen might only mean that you get an additional $8,000 of value. So at that point in time, does it make sense? So back to your point, the minor cosmetic updates that mitigate buyers' concerns: paint, caulk, wallpaper, addressing fixtures, adding light fixtures, newer light fixtures. Again, things that are minuscule in dollars and cents, but it's a perception of what a buyer is looking at.
Well, I mean, it just gives it a nice clean pop. It's just a pop. And I don't believe that people need to do all that work, change countertops, do any of that. Certain price points and products. And
this is a great line to kind of cap that on, is focus on the things, and this is exactly what we're saying, focus on the things that will make your home look clean and bright. New paint, repairing deteriorated wood, holes in sheetrock, and general dirt and grime. Things that are very easy, very manageable, that will make your house look clean and bright. Number 4 is, we've already touched on this, do a deep cleaning. My perception of clean, your perception of clean,
2 different things.
Everyone's perception of clean is very subjective at the end of the day, and there's no right or wrong. But getting a professional to clean a home that is unbiased, that has a roadmap to success when it comes to step 1 to step 10 in cleaning a house, could mean the difference. Going back to those repairs, everything that makes your house bright and clean, and deep cleaning is a huge impact on that. Ultimately, the reason sometimes you may or not be able to sell a house. How many times do you walk into homes on the buy side and look at these homes and go,
really?
Whoa. And that's why feedback's also necessary as well, because perceptions of clean could be 2 different things. If there's a hint of, a cat pee or dog pee, that's something that is good feedback that you might want to see on your showings, so we can help mitigate those problems.
Well, I mean, and if I have that issue, I'm pretty proactive. So that is that's very true. So that's another thing, is to make sure that you don't have strange smells in the house.
Yeah, and probably something that we're not necessarily dealing with because we're also seasoned agents, so we know exactly what we need to do, recipe for success. So we're not necessarily putting up homes that are going to fall into that not deep clean, not deep personalized, and not deep cluttered.
Right.
Very few and far between are we going to list houses that fall into those categories. But this is something that definitely sellers can take away from and agents can take away from, just to be on their due diligence list. Because again, it's such a minuscule cost, but it can drastically impact maybe a price point based on buyer's perception. We're going to dive into a little bit further some of like the landscaping things that you might want to prioritize. And then to your point, start on the inside, deep clean, deep clutter, deep personalize. And then once it gets a little warmer outside, maybe we can, depending on when you're going to list, clean up the landscaping. So what are some things that you're kind of focusing in on when it comes to the landscaping? What are certain things that people should be prioritizing?
Well, walk up your front path to your front porch. So I really like a power washed walkway, if can be, in a power washed exterior of the home, if there's any moss or cobwebs and that kind of thing. As far as in the landscaping, do a spring cleaning, cut back all of the dead plants, get rid of all the leaves, and just sort of cultivate the mulch or bring some fresh mulch in. If the front door is a little dull, maybe a coat of paint. There's a lot of these wood columns, and unfortunately there's a lot of dry rot and stuff like that. That's sort of important to make sure that's taken care of, but not anything crazy.
No. And things, again, that's minimal cost, minimal effort, but could be the difference on perceived market value.
Yeah.
And that even goes back to like list of repairs is those first impressions do matter. First impressions have a big impact. So addressing the small deteriorated wood or freshening up the paint could be the difference of selling that house.
Well, and the thing is that if buyers visually can see deferred maintenance and those kind of things, they're wondering what they can't see.
Yeah.
So if you're not taking care of basic, annual repair and maintenance, they're wondering the condition of the furnace and the air conditioning and, that kind of thing, the bigger items. So.
Mitigating, I don't know if I said this before, but I say it 1,000 times a day. Mitigating buyers' concerns. That's the name of the game. They're going to have issues. They're going to have concerns. They're going to have problems, but mitigating that list as small as possible. So again, these minor deferred maintenance things, if you're not addressing them, they're going to open up their mind to a lot bigger problems.
Well,
so back to your point, number one on this spring cleanup guide is clean your gutters. And if your gutters have not been cleaned or they perceive to have never been cleaned, that could be a problem, because is that relaying to other issues within the home, in the soffits and the fascia and the attic space, water in the home, and or water in the basement.
Yeah. Something
very, very easy if you just stay up to date on it, or get it prepared for your house is for sale. You mitigate a lot of those problems. 2, you've already touched on it, clean up your yard. Don't need to go crazy, but for a basic spring cleanup for $250, $300 could be the difference of selling your home for, tens of thousands of dollars more, just based on that perceived value. And then 2, I think a lot of people, probably a lot of people don't do this, clean your home's exterior. We could get a soft washer, power washer, exterior washer individual in there for $300.
Yeah.
So a combine of $1,000 in exterior work. Does that mean that you're able to obtain that much higher of a price point? Yes, versus putting that $10,000 into a kitchen, you're not as able to obtain that, $20,000 to $30,000 over where you might be for a price point. Yeah, is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, and remember, it does fall into where we are price point, and we're not asking. We're not asking for major work to be done in most homes. Most homes are what they are. Your return is going to be minimal. Just again, nice and clean, bright, clean,
Bright and clean. Yeah.
And we have the resources, which is really great. We have some great contractors that work with our clients to get some of these things done.
Yeah, really for anything. You know, when it comes to deep cleaning, we got them. When it comes to decluttering, we got them.
Power washing.
Pre-packing.
Yeah.
When it comes to power washing a landscape, check. We have our go-to people, and it's not even a thought in our mind. Okay, we go into a home. We have to declutter. We got to call Steve. We got to deep clean. We got to call Connie Major. When we got a power wash, we call the power wash.
Torch.
Blake got his name. Torch. We have our people, we have our checklist, we have our process, and that's maybe more or less why you're hiring an agent. Expertise to, one, give an assessment on what to deep clean, what to depersonalize, what to declutter, the resources to obtain that, and then obviously the simplicity of getting onto the market and getting it sold as painless as possible.
Yeah.
Because selling a house is not easy.
It's a process.
I think that's one thing that people really need to be a little more educated about is a lot of people believe that what we do is an easy task. Anyone can do it. We can put it on the market and it will sell. Way before, and I did a video on this recently, selling a house one day on the market, it takes months or weeks of preparation to have an opportunity to get a house under contract day one. And that's not an easy job. Selling a house is not easy, but when you've been doing it for 25 years, when you sell 90 homes a year, it's a little bit easier for us because we know that process, but that's why we're getting paid, or there's top dollar to that. We get paid top dollar for our experience.
Right. I mean, people will say, well, shouldn't, commission be lower because they're selling in one day? I said, well, it took me 25 years to be able to sell your house in one day.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of the beginning work, the footwork ahead of time that we do to prepare that house for sale.
That they don't have to do.
Yeah.
Or it's we'll bring you through that process and we'll be able to facilitate those things. But again, that's what the dedication and the sacrifice of doing it for 25 years, that's where you've gotten to ability to do. Because, ask any new agent, not easy being a real estate agent and mitigating these problems, but it's going through those problems that giving you the ability to now be able to mitigate them or solve them before they even happen.
Yep. And
so
I've learned, I started, early too, and it took me time to realize and embrace the process. And so I got it down. Yep.
6 was declutter. Already touched on that. The last one is increase light. And I think that goes back to even the list of repairs. Do things that are going to make your house as clean and bright as possible. There's always, not always, but there might be some offensive window treatments that are more intrusive to the natural light. It's not a bad idea to take those things down.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea to, again, mitigate one of those concerns. That's the easiest thing ever, and that's the most solvable problem that a buyer may impose on your home. But taking them down, creating more natural light, doesn't even put that thought in their mind.
Yeah.
And that's the point, is when you create, I don't like this orange in this room. That's an easy problem. But for some reason, buyers today, yesterday, and for the end of time are going to probably walk into a home and see offensive colors like orange, red, and pink and go, oh my gosh, I can't buy this house.
Yeah.
Such a solvable thing. So why not solve that beforehand so you're not having to deal with those problems?
Yeah. Because of the recent market, the last 2 years when we had such a shortage of inventory and such high demand, a lot of sellers, took a free card and decided not to do some of that, and it worked out.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you that I'm feeling that our future is going to be different. We've got to do a little bit more preparation for things like that.
Yeah, getting back to basics, get back to foundations. But I also see that as a great opportunity for us because of our experience on that. So those that have not been accustomed to those issues down the road, or mitigating those problems, it might be more or less not a rude awakening, but it might be a little bit different for them versus what the market was going through over 2020 and 2021.
Right.
So, but again, that's why we're not necessarily concerned. We've got a great name, great repetition. We know the process. We know the steps. Not a problem for us.
No, and but my the most important thing is get started early, so it doesn't seem like an overwhelming process. Like I said, I get in there, do a checklist. Let's work on this. Carpet is one of those things. If it cleans up nice, that's great. If it's pretty inexpensive to do some carpet change if need be, and that is one of those things that we know. Say, hey, it's $2,000 to recarpet the house. Well, a buyer is going to come and say, oh goodness gracious, it's $10,000. Now that might be worth it. That's just, again, an individual
perceived value. And if we can spend $2,000 but it means like an ROI of 10 to 20 over list price,
we'll talk about it. It
might be something to do. Again, clean bright. So let's run through them really quick. Number one was start early. And that's probably a great piece of advice for anything, early and often. Number two is see your competition, know where your house needs to be. Deep clean, declutter, depersonalized, list of repairs, and increase the light. And then with that in mind, all of those interior things, the deep clean, the depersonalized, the declutter, the repairs, and the make it light, keep in mind, will this make my house cleaner and brighter? The answer is yes, and it's cost effective.
Yep.
Probably not a bad idea to do it.
Yep. And then your curb appeal. You capture the interest of the buyer as they drive in the driveway. So
I can't tell you how many times that I've gone to a house with a buyer and them stop at the front door and say probably not even worth it, based on the deferred maintenance and the upkeep of what they're seeing or what needs to happen, and then on top of it, first impressions.
Right.
And that matters.
Yep.
That definitely matters today. Did it matter in 2020 when things were crazy at 2.5%? Not so much, but we're in a different time, different place. So, thanks for tuning in. Another episode of Beyond the Keys, Pat Lotz podcast. Pat Lotz Real Estate Group. Looking forward, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to use those like, comment, and share buttons below. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Pat Lotz Real Estate for more helpful home buying and selling tips. Want a free comparable market analysis? Scan that QR code on your screen or visit our website at www.patlotz.com and fill out the request form. There's lots to love in Livingston County.